Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everyone to our 19th session on how to study the Bhagavad Gita. Today we are covering chapter 16, Adhyaya 16, which is the Daiva Asura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. So Nilesh, we'll follow the same pattern. If you can tell us a summary and then with some follow-up couple of questions. So can you summarize this chapter for us, please?
So we have we completed 15 chapter, which is 13, 14, 15 is a Jnana Yoga. So we started with second, we know the whole summary, then the 3, 4, 5 is Karma Yoga, then 6, 7, 8 is Dhyana Yoga, 9, 10, 11, 12 is Bhakti Yoga, and 13, 14, 15 is Jnana Yoga. So what this is, number 16, chapters, Adhyaya 16, is think of this as appendix A, and then there is appendix B. So in some sense, this is a somewhat repetition, but not a complete repetition. In fact, Vyasadeva felt like, and of course Krishna, therefore I'm saying, felt like giving so much emphasis that they decided to almost put a special emphasis on this. And when we get to 17, we'll talk about 17. But here it is you can call this appendix 1, appendix A. And so that's what this is. And we are discussing Daivi Prakriti and Asuri Prakriti in this Adhyaya.
But Nilesh, when you say appendix to emphasize what? I mean, what is it that was not covered enough earlier that there was a need of an appendix here? What is it covering actually?
Right. So, I mean, because just like, in the 15th chapter, we saw the entire subject of Panchakosh, and what happens after death, Samparaya, the Samparaya Jnana, like what happens after, is covered in 3 shlok in Bhagavad Gita. But you find that Upanishads are discussing, extensively, and Upanishads are actually very, very compact form, and even they discuss it long. Similarly, what is discussed here, of course, this is number 16. So in some sense, it is, and it ought to be a continuation of Adhyaya 15. So for example, in Adhyaya 15, if you see 19 shlok, like Yo Mameva Sammudo Janati Purushottamam Sasar Vijjati Mam Sarva Bhavena Bharata. So that's like the ultimate Purushottam Yoga. And to understand this, we talked about the Aprapya and Prapya, Avyakta, Vyakta, and so on. Now, what is the qualification that is required to understand this? And Bhagavad Gita finds it so essential that it does not mind overemphasizing, re-emphasizing. So it is a continuation of that. Yo mameva sammuda, like, so everyone, like, putting their restrictions on themselves through we talked about the vakrata of a mind, right? Going on a tangent, like, when you need to supposed to go here, going there, that's the characteristic of a mind. And mudata is like a lack of intellect that has to do with the buddhi. And that's the continuation of it. And it says, hey, look, there are two kinds. One is a Daivi Prakriti, that is what you need if you want to understand this. And the other one is going to take you into a spiral out of which is very difficult to come out. That is the Asuri Pravritti or Rakshasi Pravritti. And Bhagavad Gita finds it worth, like Vyasadeva, this is actually coming out of the Krupa or the Karuna, the compassion, that they say, well, let me make it again clear. So that is what this appendix is about. So that's about the 15th chapter. I'm saying the continuation. But if somebody wants to see the direct one-on-one correspondence, one can go to 9th chapter. I copied the verses here from 9th chapter. Yes. Rajavidya Yoga, say Shlok 11 and 12. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhava param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. So avajananti mam mudha, like, again, the lack of intellect, confuses things, understanding it. And the next verse there, moghasha mogha karmano mogha jnana vichetasa rakshasim asurim chaiva prakrutim mohinim shrita. So that mohini meaning like what you call
Moha.
m-
Moha.
uh, moha in the sense
Delusion.
of uh,
Delusion.
uh,
Delusion.
delusion, and mudha in the sense of lack of intellect. Okay, so those are the address, and it is a appendix related to these two slok from ninth chapter. And this again same mameva yo mameva sammudo, again similar, so it is in reference to those.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, in fact, it is very nicely said in the Bhagavad Gita. What are the signs of a Satwik person, Rajasic person? So, 20 gunas which make him a Satwik, 26 gunas which make somebody a Daivi pravrutti. Then,
Correct.
what are the signs of Sthita Prajna? So, actually, everything has been listed down that, these are the things that you need to be able to have a Satwik pravrutti, a Daivi prakruti, So, that is very categorically stated in the Gita. So coming back to this mudha, I am coming to shlok 20, asurim yonima panna mudha janmani janmani. So wherein is it this shlok, is it equal to Krishna telling us about eternal damnation or hellfire that we see in the other religions?
Okay. It may appear like that. So that's a good choice that you made. I mean, good selection. But we also say how the Sanatana is distinctly different than Abrahamic religions. Distinctly, almost distinctly in the sense, sometimes we may find similar things, and that's to be given. I mean, some great realized folks grew up in other religions too. Occasionally that has happened. But those are like miracles, you can say. Of course, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, that is given. So I'll come to that. But also also the thing that I want to add, like the list that you just made, you said, hey, it is given as, I forgot now the list. Yeah, like a Sattva Rajatama Gun, so a list of Sattva Guna. Correct. I just want to add to that. In the 13th chapter, when what is Jnana is described, Abhayam Sattva
Yes,
Samshuddhi
Abhayam
Dhyana
Tattva.
Yoga. Again, if you, and Sthita Prajna, you already mentioned Sthita Prajna. So that list is consistent. Or if you go to 12th chapter and look at the Lakshana, Bhakta Lakshana,
Yes, yes.
again same. So the list is not different. That also tells us how much karuna or krupa Vyasadeva has, and the Vyasadeva expresses his frustration. Urdo bahur viromesha nacha kaschit shunoti mam. With hands raised, I am telling multiple times. Bhagavad Gita itself, like what, 6-7 times. Nacha kaschit shunoti mam dharmadarthasya kamasya sadharma kim na sevyate. Still people say, oh no, when I become old, I might
Yeah,
go to Bhagavad Gita. Well, tough luck. It's just not going to happen. Even if you go, you are not going to comprehend. Your intellect and your all faculties, mind, they are going to go down. That's why the sense of urgency, is there, and that's why you say it. Now, to answer your question about the shlok 20, Asuri yoni mapanna mudha janmani janmani. Is this eternal damnation, or somebody who doesn't follow the book, or somebody who doesn't take to a specific Messiah is destined for eternal hellfire, which is the Abrahamic view? Is that basically what Krishna is saying here by saying Asuri yonimapanna mudha janmani janmani mama prapeva kaunteya tato yantya adhamam gatim? He's just going down. Actually, think of it. This Bhagavad Gita, as much as we say it is for common people, yes, but it's common people from a some basic prerequisites are assumed, which is to say, if somebody is not following, not doing the bhakti, or somebody who has a asuri pravrutti, or somebody is a mudha, even it doesn't need to be told that the person is going to go to adhamagati. That is just given. Like that's a point, that's like a cause and effect relationship. So why Krishna is emphasizing? So there, the trick there is, he says, mama aprapyeva kaunteya, by not taking to me, or by what would be the can you think of translating that, like a mama aprapyeva, like a
So those who do not acknowledge my presence, actually.
there you go, very good, very good. Okay. So Yeah.
And basically, acknowledge my presence in the larger sense, we need to understand, acknowledge the presence of our own Atma. I mean,
Huh.
separate the Atma from the body. Till
Huh.
the time we don't do that, we will never be able to, get the jnana that Krishna is trying to give us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Atma Jnana or the self realization. And that is why, as you said, that people say that the Bhagavad Gita is when I'll read it when I become old. No, I mean, it's a urge to all our audience, please, please introduce Bhagavad Gita to the children in your family, even if they are 3-year-old, 4-year-olds. That is the time you need to impress the teachings of the Gita in whichever language possible, understandable. In fact, child psychologists, it's proven that whatever impressions that have to be created on a child's mind get created by the age he or she is 10 or 11. After that, it is very difficult to mold that child, into whatever you want him or her to be. So it is so very important that you introduce Bhagavad Gita to children right from the age of 3 or 4, wherever you can start, as early as you can start,
Yeah.
not later.
Yeah, you can just, I'll add to that. You can start actually, one ought to start when just like a Sri Ganesha, Namaha, we start
We
teaching them
start.
how to write. In fact, a good anecdote. Recently, there was a Samskar camp in Atlanta,
Yes.
and one of the youngest participant in that camp was a 5-year-old boy. Okay.
Mhm.
And the Veda Pandit Kapreji was there,
Mhm.
and he was teaching them how to do the pronunciation, or doing the pronunciation properly. And he showed with a demonstration, like this 5-year boy, I mean boy, he might have some training, but still he's a 5-year-old, you know and he took others, and he was giving a santha. I mean, that's the word I know, like giving a santha, like, they will say it and you repeat and see if you can mimic that. And he showed with a demonstration how relatively grown up, not that old, like they may be 8-year-old and 10-year-old,
Mhm.
they had a tough time mimicking what Kapreji was saying.
Yeah.
But the 5-year-old boy, who wouldn't otherwise know what the meaning is, I mean, no chance even, and we know that that is not the case. But he was catching up when he was correcting him and say, okay, do this. And he was catching up very fast. And so that's a good demonstration, good anecdote for in support of what you just said, why everyone needs to do it early. Now, the word of caution I would say, and that connects with this 20, is this, that mama aprapyeva kaunteya, because they have not taken to Ishvara Bhakti, because they are hanging on to their Asuri Pravrutti and hanging on to their intellect. I mean, I know people, they are proud of their Asuri Pravrutti, and they are proud of their lack of intellect. Even when somebody tells them you are doing mistake, I mean, many of my trolls will fall into that, they refuse to do it. That much attached they are to this. So mama aprapya kante, when because of the lack of this Ishwara bhakti that is happening, so is this eternal damnation? The answer is no. How we are different? So that is, even he's saying, if they are asuri and they lack intellect, their outcome is certain.
Mhm.
Adhamagati. That the very having in lack of having a very inferior intellect itself is the suffering. The person doesn't may or may not feel. But actually here the path is shown. As soon as they turn around,
Mhm.
as soon as they get this realization that Ishvara Bhakti is the way, Jnana is the way, Yoga is the way, Karma Yoga is the way, the path changes. And that's why we have that other shlok, which I find, I struggled, and I still struggle. Like when he says, I don't have the chapter now, but Krishna says, but somebody, even a Duratma, as soon as he takes to my path,
Yes.
he's right.
He says that. Yes.
His all goes away. Now goes away only, it's a metaphorical sense, goes
Yes.
away only in the sense Jnaneshwar is saying, Hari Mukhe Mana Punyachi Ganana Kona Kari Devachi Edwari Ubhakshana Bhari Tene Mukti Chari Sadhiyelia. So just because he's standing in front of Bhagwan for a fraction of a second, Kshanabhari,
Mhm.
Tene Mukti Chari Sadhiyelia, he gets all the 4 muktis. Doesn't mean immediately. That's a
No, it
metaphor.
only means that he becomes mukta from the Papa Charana. He
Correct.
will start taking a U-turn and
Correct.
start doing good deeds.
Correct.
Yeah, he will have to, the karma laws, he will have to pay for whatever wrong he has done. But
Yeah,
at least when he takes to God and when he tries to do Ishwar Bhakti,
yeah,
he will get mukti from the path, from the path of the path that he is doing. I think that is what Krishna tries to say. One
correct.
shouldn't think that I will do all the bad things in my life and just say once Jai Shri Krishna and then that's it.
Yeah,
I'll get that doesn't happen. Yeah.
right. And it is very reassuring, right? For example, suppose we are not feeling well,
Hmm.
and therefore we take a proper medication. Now actual complete curation or curing of it may take a long time,
Yeah.
but as soon as we see a turnaround, we feel good. Hey, so something is happening. I feel good now. I don't feel the worry now because the journey is in the right direction. So that is what it says, mama aprapeva kaunteya. That's why, otherwise, if somebody has a asuri pravrutti and somebody has is a muda buddhi,
Hmm.
that person's outcome doesn't need to be restated or restated by saying yantya adhama gatim. That is given, but that can be turned around. So no, there is no eternal damnation,
Okay.
as Sanatana understands it.
Yeah, and also in other, in the Upanishads, etc., we have this seven realms, the concept of seven lok, saptalok,
Yeah,
Om, Bhuva. So based on your deeds, you go to that realm, depending upon how Satwik or how tamasic you are. So I also agree that I don't think he means eternal hellfire or eternal damnation in this shlok. And
hmm.
also, to continue with that word of caution about introducing Bhagavad Gita to the young kids, I also want to say that, if one does that, if a parent does that, the parent also starts reading.
Yes,
It is that the entire family gets into it and it is a win-win for all. So
yeah.
that is all the more reason that one needs to introduce Bhagavad Gita to the child when he is or she is 3 or 4 or 5 years of age.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say so that the grown-ups don't use that as an excuse, say, hey, but too bad, I am grown up now. What can I do?
Uh,
I would say the realization they ought to have is they must realize that the day they realize is the first day of the rest of their life, you know, and so start,
so
when they understand it.
So coming back to this chapter and then my last question. So
Hmm.
in the 23rd, 24th shlok where yah shastra vidhi mut sruj vartate kamakaratah, he's talking that if somebody who doesn't follow shastra will again go to adhogati or will not get mukti. So
Hmm.
what is the shastra that Krishna is referring to?
Yeah, so I mean, he's referring to in a broader sense. So, for example, there is a Karma Yoga Shastra, we can say. Sankhya is a Shastra, right? So, one is in terms of like, how can you say, like how to do Sanyam, and what exactly Karma Yoga means, understanding karma, understanding akarma, understanding Vishesha karma, vikarma. So, that one aspect, that's like a understanding all of that is a shastra. Another one is think of the like apara, apara shastra. Now interestingly, Upanishad include Rigvedas and all Vedas into apara
Okay.
shastra also, meaning they consider that as in an inferior, because
Mhm.
understanding
Can you
inferior.
explain what is apara for the audience?
Apara meaning like in a simple way we'll say material science, for example.
Mhm.
Okay, and paravidya, aparavidya, paravidya. Paravidya meaning just like that aprapya, like exactly how the something began, or what is Bhagwan, and what happens to us afterwards. These are paravidyas, like samparaya. That's why I said no samparaya pratibhati balam. It's not a ordinary intellect play. It's not for everybody. Actually, people think, everyone thinks, hey, explain it to me. I mean, that happens. I see that. In social media, I see that after my lectures, and somebody says, yeah, explain that to me. Now, of course, there's a possibility that I don't know. I mean, I cannot claim I know everything. In fact, most of the stuff I don't know. Like
Mhm.
Karl Popper says, while we vary in the little bits that we know, when it comes to ultimate ignorance, we are all equal. So the amounts of stuff that we don't know is a lot. But even what little one may know and one try to explain, the person who is receiving it must also understand that he or she may not simply have a required intellect, okay, required background to do it. So in that sense also, that apara discussion comes. But the second, so the second aspect is, one is to understand how to do karma yoga, yama, niyama, knowledge of that, asana, karma, vikarma. That's one category. Second one is we have to sharira madhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. Like we have to have we have to keep ourselves in a healthy position so that we can accomplish all of this, like learning and all of that, practicing. So for that, say Ayurveda, we need understanding of a nutrition, understanding of a exercise, other skills by which we can maintain our sustenance, yoga kshema. That Shastra also comes into this. And you can, just include everything. For example, Varnashrama, akama, akrodha, alobha, how to sarvashrama prayuktoyam, or how we look at all living entities, like keeping that balance. That all will come into the Shastra. And the point is, if you don't do it the proper way, vartate kamakarata, there is a method to madness. If you don't do it, what is that is immediately given. Bhagavad Gita is instantaneous. Like, if you do this, this will happen. If you don't do it, this will happen. So it says, if you don't do this properly, next line, nasa siddhi, na siddhi, nasa siddhi navapnoti, na sukham, na paragatim. No happiness and no higher up, going higher up. You're going to go in the opposite direction. So there will be dukkha, there is going down, and asiddhi, meaning imperfection. You don't know your perfection. So why this is given is because most of us, can easily get into this trap that we think, oh, I have my own method. And
Yeah.
is there right?
And and many people say, oh, I have read the Bhagavad Gita. So they think they know all. But so what? Are you practicing the philosophy taught by Krishna? There are so many philosophies, the
Correct.
way of life that we need to practice based on the Gita. The
Yeah.
reading is one. Doesn't mean that you know. So
Yeah.
that's a difference, I think.
Correct. And on that point, like if somebody read it once and thinking, therefore now I have done it, then he or she is in a fool's paradise. Frankly, someone might have read it 1,000 times and thinks, now I have done it. That person is also in fool's paradise. We can extend that and even say somebody actually may know this without even reading Bhagavad Gita. That miracle can also happen. But it is to be honestly, one has to do the self-assessment. This is studying Bhagavad Gita, or even studying our Itihasa, Ramayana, Mahabharata, or studying our Upanishad, anything, or studying science. It is not really, it is for our own pleasure, own joy, like, the Atmananda. It is not for boastful purposes. It's not to boast to someone that, oh, I have read this, or I have done this, and so on and so forth. And so that's what will happen, right? You will not get this, not what get this. This is tasmat shastram pramanamte. There is a proof is in the pudding. When you do that, the pramana, like out, you should able to see the results outside. Karya akarya vyavastita, and it will tell you. If you don't do it, then actually you are going to get in trouble. And we'll stop here, but the next chapter is about that, like. So right on that, Krishna, based on these two shlok, Arjun asked the questions that begins the
Next chapter.
17th chapter. Yeah, Ye Shastra Vidhi Mustrujya. So you can conclude and we can stop.
Yeah, no, we can stop here. Dhanyavad. Jagdamba, Jagdamba, Jagdamba.
Jagdamba.